Y'all wanna know something crazy? Most people never even become half of what they could have been. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, not because God forgot about them, but because deep down, they didn't believe that they were capable. And when you don't believe you're capable, you subconsciously build a life around it. That's why some people sabotage opportunities. That's why some people never live up to who they could have been. That's why some people stay at a job that they hate forever. Not because they cannot leave, but because their identity will not let them. And I realized a lot of us are trying to build a life around an identity that doesn't believe that they even deserve. I think one of the most dangerous things in life is having potential trapped under a false identity. Because once you start believing something about yourself, you start behaving in that manner. If you believe I'm lazy, if you believe I'm a procrastinator, if you believe I will never make it, if you believe that I'm just not good enough, I'm just not capable, God didn't make me to be that person. Your behavior starts aligning with that beliefs. So in turn, you stop trying, you stop building, you stop speaking. You accept a false identity that was put into your life, possibly by somebody else. And it's not because you physically can't, right? It's because your mind is trying to stay loyal to a person or identity that it recognizes. And that hit me hard. Because growing up, I was labeled a quiet kid. So in turn, I started overthinking expressing myself. I started overthinking speaking. I started overthinking the little things. And that's because that was the identity that was placed in me. That was the label I accepted. Fast forward a year later, I'm speaking at schools. I'm teaching workshops. I'm building a company around transformation. And that taught me something. It's not that we can't, it's that we accepted an identity way too early in our lives that caused us to think that we were not capable of doing things, of doing certain things, of achieving certain things. A lot of limitations we think are permanent are just identities that we accepted way too early in our lives. People think success starts with motivation. I don't think it does. I think success starts with identity, because your identity affects what you tolerate, what you expect, what you believe, what you become, and ultimately what you think is possible for your life. If someone believes that they're a failure, every little thing will destroy them. Every low video, every no, every obstacle that they face in their life, they will believe the identity of being a failure, because that's what they already think about themselves. That's just confirming it. Any obstacle that gets in their way is just confirming it. But somebody with a strong identity, they interpret things differently. They interpret failures differently. They say, this is training, this is development, this is just a season, this is just a part of who I'm becoming. Same obstacle, different identity, different outcome. And that's why I always say identity drives behavior. Because who you believe you are internally will always come out externally. Going along with a false identity is unsustainable. Faking like you're somebody you're not is unsustainable. At the end of the day, your behavior is always going to show who you truly are and who you truly believe about yourself. Most people are trying to change the behavior before they change the identity. And that's why the change never lasts. Some people pray for a better life while speaking death over themselves every day. Saying things, I'll never make it. Saying things like, success doesn't happen to people like me. You're literally programming your future with your words and your thoughts. The scripture says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Not as he hopes, not as he wishes, but as he thinks. You need to transform your mind before you transform anything in your life. Before you change any behavior that you don't want in your life anymore. You need to transform your identity. You need to start speaking life into yourself. I honestly think a lot of people aren't stuck because of their lack of opportunity. I think they're stuck because they're scared to abandon the identity that they've been attached to for years. And an identity can become comfortable even when it's painful. Some people are attached to struggle. Some people are attached to insecurity. Some people are attached to pain. Some people are attached to playing small. You know why? Because at least that's comfortable. At least they know that's familiar. This feeling I'm feeling right now is familiar, and that's the identity I'm attached to. And the scary part about growth is that you have to become unfamiliar with yourself first. Think about it. The person that's capable of changing your life doesn't think how you currently think. He doesn't move how you currently move. Doesn't speak how you currently speak. So every time you try to evolve, there's friction. That's why discipline feels hard at first. That's why consistency feels unnatural. That's why confidence feels fake initially, because your old identity is still fighting for survival. And I had to realize this. There are days I still wake up doubting everything. Doubting if I was going to become the version I see in my head, become successful as I see it in my head. There's days I feel behind financially, days I'm exhausted, days where content flops, days where I feel pressure. But when I realize that confidence doesn't come first, movement does. Confidence comes from constantly acting in alignment with the person that you're becoming. And that changed my life. Most of you are waiting for proof before you move. That's backwards. It doesn't make sense. Movement becomes before the proof. Becoming comes before the results. You have to become before you get the results, and that's faith. Noah built before the rain. David trained before the throne ever came. Joseph kept his identity intact while in prison before the palace ever came. And most of you are asking God for things that your identity couldn't even sustain. You want influence and still identify as insignificant. You want leadership and still identify as fearful. You want success, but you still speak like someone defeated. And eventually I realized that your life will rarely grow beyond the identity that you consistently reinforce. That's why I had to start altering my language. Right? Because what you say about yourself matters. What you say about your situation matters. What you constantly tolerate matters. Because life and death are in the power of the tongue. And some people unknowingly speak death of their future before they even get a chance to fulfill what they were supposed to fulfill. I think there's people watching this that deep down know you were built for more, you were made for more. Know you have gifts. Know you have purpose. Know everything that you're supposed to become. Know that there's more in you. But deep down, your identity won't let you become that. You spend so many years believing certain things about yourself that you keep coming back to this identity, this false identity about yourself. And it's holding you back. If you're watching this and you know you're meant for more, and you know that God has things in store for your life, and you know you have purpose, and you know that you have talents and that you are called to do something, but because you will not let go of that old identity of yourself, you can't see that you're capable of it. And I need you to understand something. You do not become great by accident. You become who you constantly identify with. Your life will not change until your mind changes. The Bible tells us to transform, to be renewed by the transformation of our minds. Transformation starts with identity. Maybe you don't have the life you want yet, not because God said no, but because you don't believe that you're capable. Because you don't identify with greatness. Once you change your identity, your behavior will naturally follow. You don't become successful just by changing your habits. Do not let them lie to you. You do not become successful by waking up at 5 a.m. and going to the gym every day. That's a part of the discipline, but once you change your identity, that discipline will naturally follow. That discipline is gonna come anyway once you change the internal stuff before you start doing the external things. Your life hasn't changed because you don't believe you're capable of being the person that you're asking God for the things you're asking God for. Your future is waiting on the version of you that can hold the things that can become capable of the things that you're praying for.